They got his taxes, everybody. Almost certainly through illegal means, because taxes are protected documents. But New York Times, big story on Sunday. Oh, look at Trump's taxes. We went through them. We talked to sources with knowledge of them, yada, yada, yada. And the big takeaways are supposed to be that Trump in 1 year paid $750 total in income taxes, that he did big write-offs for losses over many, many years, and that he has some large liabilities, financial liabilities, but also has a lot of assets and a lot of income streams. And they just went deep diving into his finances. And their takeaway from this, of course, is that it's an enormous bombshell, huge story. Oh my gosh, dogs and cats living together, mass hysteria.
Brad Stelter over at CNN is like, it's like super important.
Play 3.
Obviously, this has the potential to change the race. How explosive is this?
Americans are already voting in some states, and most Americans' minds are already made up. But Anna, this is one of the most important stories of the past 5 years. Not stories of this year, but one of the most important stories of the past 5 years, because as a candidate, Donald Trump fought hard to shield his tax returns, and as president, he has fought even harder to shield his tax returns from public scrutiny. So this is the kind of information that we are going to be hearing about for days and weeks to come, and including on the debate stage in front of 60, 70, 80 million people on Tuesday night.
Two things that Democrats just really don't understand about the right and Republicans right now. Number one is that what they did to Kavanaugh was like injecting political steroids into millions of conservatives. I've said that before. It's important. And that's why they're a little bit caught off guard here with the whole Amy Coney Barrett thing. We want this done. There's no moderation. There's no let's sit down with the other side and have a nice, long, sweet talk about this thing. No, we have the votes. Let's get it done. No ifs, ands, or buts. No slowdowns. No games. And the other thing that the Democrats don't really understand about the right is that we're at a point, and have been for a while, where we just laugh at their bombshell walls closing in on Trump stories. I mean, they're hilarious, dumb, and worthless. And this was supposed to be their big thing. For years, you have had journos acting like this was the holy grail of investigative reporting, if they could just find the Trump tax returns. Well, I'm glad that the New York Times finally released this big story on Trump's taxes so we can all confirm there's nothing there. And journos who've been talking for years about walls closing in on Trump because of his taxes are total morons. Glad we've established this. I'm glad we have an understanding that this is what's actually going on. Now what are they going to say? Because here's the problem. There's nothing illegal in there. There's no, and the New York Times actually says we didn't find any covert connection to Russia in the tax returns. I mean, as if any intelligent person would believe that that was going to happen. Remember, the federal government has had these tax returns all along, and they're already auditing the president because of some of the very large deductions he's taken, which is understandable. Look, if you take very large deductions, that's going to get flagged, and the IRS is going to dig into that. And that's understandable. But there's nothing here. There is nothing here. And so, other than, the president has had very large income streams and very large losses in different businesses, and has taken these write-offs that you're allowed to do as a business owner, as somebody that's involved on the corporate side, the ownership side of corporate America. And so that has offset his taxes a lot. I mean, almost entirely in many years. But this is legal. And a lot of us look at this and say, I'm going to tell you this right now. I pay the absolute bare minimum taxes that I can legally get away with, where I don't feel like I'd be in a position where if somebody called me out on something, I would say, uh-oh, you got me. I'd say, no, this is why I took this deduction. It was a good faith deduction, right? And I take the absolute, I'm always looking. I've got an accountant, although he just retired, but I've got an accountant, and I try to go through things with him, and I want to take the max because the government takes too much money from me. And I don't make a lot of money. I'm not like some of these other radio hosts that have, lots and lots of houses and stuff like that. I don't have a house yet. Well, I own one house, but it's not something that I think anybody should be ashamed of, should feel sheepish about. I think it makes a lot of sense. You take the deductions you can, and you work within the tax code that is mandated for you. If I had the option to just pay a flat tax every year, 15%, I would do that. But I don't. So they're trying to make this into a big story. And part of that is just now wild speculation about how, you see, there's nothing in there that makes anybody worried about Trump or his taxes. But what they're saying now is that it's what's not in the tax returns that's so damning. We need more investigation of Trump's finances. And this is the liberals being dishonest loons because Trump wasn't withholding his tax returns to hide Russia ties. And now they want to move on to the next conspiracy of the resistance, the hashtag resistance. Here's Yamiche Alcindor, I think is a PBS correspondent, battles with Trump in the press conferences. And she's taken this. This is now one of the new conspiracies you'll hear, that the only reason Trump is running is because if he doesn't win, he's going to go to prison over his taxes. Play 4.
I think that the line in this New York Times story that really underscores what this all means, apart from, of course, what you say is the evading and the possible breaking of laws, they said ultimately President Trump might be better and more successful playing a media mogul than actually being one. That sentence stopped me dead in my tracks, because what it tells us is that he has sold this idea of himself as this businessman, as a successful person. There are critics of President Trump who have said for a long time that he was fighting so hard to be reelected, not only because he wanted to be reelected, but also because he's worried that if he's not reelected, he could actually face jail time and be carried off, like a lot of his personal associates, including his personal lawyer, his former campaign manager, and so on and so on. So I think this story is a bombshell and it's a blockbuster.
It's not a bombshell or a blockbuster unless you're somebody who thinks that all the other stories about Trump that have come out from the media in recent years, including all the Russia collusion hoax bombshells, really had some impact and people paid attention to who weren't already Trump haters. And I think it's interesting that they note here that it is noted in this discussion that we'll look at some of the other people around the president. They've ended up going off to prison, right? Because they worked with the president and because they came under tremendous scrutiny from the federal government. And yes, they were, in the case of Michael Cohen, scummy people. But they only went after them because of their association with Trump. So if they could get Trump, don't you think they would have already? If they had something on him, don't you think we would have heard about it? I've been telling you for years that what you'll find is a president, has taken big deductions and might not have as much liquid wealth as, he said. I think he said he's worth $9 billion or something like that. I mean, that depends on how you value his brand. I can tell you this much. If he just did a fire sale of everything, I don't think the president would have $9 billion, but he'd probably have a billion or two. And guess what? He's got a lot more experience and knowledge of the business world, of economics, and of how to make things work than Joe Biden does. Somehow, ultimately, you look at the results, he's the president, and a lot of these other people that are sitting around talking about how he's so bad at business, he's the president, and he flies around in a jet that he owns to incredible properties that he owns, and is world famous, and has a brand that's allowed his children and his children's children to be very, very wealthy and well-known. But we're all going to pretend like what? He's a big loser? Is that what the story is now? He's not really good. He's not good at business. He's not good at these things. Is he also not good at politics because he came in and roundhouse kicked the Democrat establishment in the face and knocked it out? So is it, well, what really is the case? He's not cheating on his taxes. He's not good at business. No, it's just all these different variations of why Trump is so bad. This is just Orange Man Bad, the taxes chapter. The same thing. It was boring. I read the whole piece, the New York Times piece yesterday when it came out, and I was looking for something that was going to really go, that doesn't look good. All right, so some of the businesses lose money. Some of them make money. The tax code is written so that people are willing to take risks and build things that then employ people and that pay Social Security and Medicare taxes and all the, we're just talking about income tax to Trump personally. There's a lot of taxation that's going on. There's taxes on every hamburger sold in the Trump hotel. Trust me, I know they're expensive. There's a lot going on here, but all they want to do is tear them down. And so they're convinced before they even see the taxes that the walls are closing in and this is the end for Trump. No, it's not. It's really pathetic. It's unsettling how crazy these people are. What does the COVID-19 pandemic have to do with you losing your home? Well, you see, cybercrime's up about 75%, according to the FBI, and your home's title is online. That's where the bad guys find it. Then they kick you off your home's title with a quitclaim deed, take loans out against your home's equity, and leave you stuck with the payments. Sometimes you won't even find out about this until you get a foreclosure notice in the mail. You have to create a virtual barrier around your home's title with Home Title Lock. Home Title Lock can set you up so that the moment there's any tampering detected, they'll shut it down when it comes to your home's title. The usual identity theft services do not protect you. And your home is your most valuable asset. It's your safe haven. Take action today. Go to HomeTitleLock.com, register your address to see if you're already a victim, and use code RADIO for 30 free days of protection. That's HomeTitleLock.com, code RADIO for 30 free days of protection at HomeTitleLock.com.
$750.
That hurts.
That does resonate.
So, and it's also, 4 years ago, we talked about being able to avoid paying taxes legally, avoid, dealing with the tax laws, being so brilliant that
Right.
you could figure out how to pay, a lower tax rate. But this is not just avoiding. What is being seen in this reporting is avoiding, evading, perhaps robbing and cheating. We'll see.
Yeah,
But it doesn't look good.
Again, it's one thing. Amazon pays zero in taxes. That's a real problem. We have to reform our tax code.
Sure.
It's broken.
And yet every time we try to reform the tax code, the libs go, no. We don't want to make it all easy and one page and very straightforward, because the rich libs want to keep all their deductions and but they want to pretend like they think that paying taxes is patriotic, but they don't want to pay taxes. They want you to pay taxes. That's the whole game. That's the entire con, as you see it here. Perhaps robbing and cheating, Mika Brzezinski says. No, that would then mean that he's given to the IRS the means to actually go after him criminally, which is not what's happening here. Anyone who looks at this, and any expert worthy of the term who sees what's in this, remember, this is not even, it's not like they published the tax returns. This is the New York Times, and the president says that they're all full of crap. I mean, he might be a little bit, a little excessive in saying they're totally full of crap. I don't know. I mean, I'm assuming they probably have someone who leaked the tax returns to him. Okay, I don't think they're completely making this up wholesale. But he's saying it's garbage. We can't know how much of it is garbage, but there's nothing in here that's a problem. It's also boring, right? It's also, who cares? What do they want? In what world? Let's take this. Take a different approach to this. What would have to be in those tax returns for them to not attack Donald Trump on his tax returns? Well, let's take an example. Mitt Romney, the Democrats, as you know, Harry Reid famously said on the floor of the Senate, so he could not be in any way legally liable for this. He said Mitt Romney hadn't paid taxes in 10 years. That was a lie. Mitt Romney had paid a lot of taxes. I mean, say what you will about the guy, and I've said a lot. He is rich, and he did make a lot of money. But Mitt Romney was paying taxes. That was and then later on, when Harry Reid was asked about this, his response was, well, he didn't win, did he? It's just a smear. That's all it was. Character assassination. And that was Mitt Romney, who I think is a very by the book, by the letter kind of guy. I mean, he's sort of a grown-up hall monitor type. And he even found himself attacked on taxes. John Kerry in 2004 paid something like 11% or some just pitiful tax rate on unearned income, on effectively passive income of the assets that his wife owns, because wife married a very wealthy man, and then John Kerry married her. So, he paid very, very low taxes. So when he's, taking the million-dollar yacht to the multi-million-dollar house in the vineyards, leaving the multi-million-dollar mansion on Beacon Hill in Boston. I mean, not paying a lot of taxes. I think John Kerry also even moved his boat anchorage so that he could pay less taxes. I mean, one thing you'll find is that even very wealthy people that have no realistic concern about ever running out of money or not being able to live a very fancy lifestyle, even very wealthy people can be very cheap. I've seen this a lot. In fact, some of the richest people that I know are fixated on money, but maybe that's a conversation for another time. I just think that this story on the Trump taxes, it's boring and nobody cares. And they can try to pretend that everybody cares, but ultimately it's boring and nobody really cares. Except for the journos who have been chomping at the bit for years on this thing. And all along I've been saying, guys, the IRS already has it. You who listen to the show know I was never worried about Trump's taxes and what it would mean for him, because I'm like, the IRS already has it. They already have the taxes. So what are we even talking about here? What, he's going to have a handwritten note from Putin? Oh, it's very good that Trump is giving me all the things I need for stealing election. $1 million Trump wrote a check. No, I don't think that's what's going to happen. I don't think the president had some note. Dear Trump, is Vlad, I love you. Big smoochy, here $1 billion. I don't think that that's a thing. Although maybe we should make it a thing. It'd be kind of a fun sketch. But Trumpy, I miss you. Come back for snuggles with Vlad, right? Like, that wasn't going to exist. That wasn't going to be a thing that actually happened, but they believed for some reason, or they convinced themselves that it was going to happen. Really pretty stunning. By the way, speaking of rich people who don't care about other people but pretend to, Pelosi, who is really my favorite example of that, is saying that now she is hoping for another COVID stimulus bill. Oh, so you mean she wants to demagogue the issue for the weeks leading up to the election because the Republicans wanted money to go out to people who are unemployed because of government policy. Pelosi's not okay with that. Not enough money, she says. She's going to get you more. So just keep waiting. Watch your bank account get drained down. Watch your business get closer and closer to forever closure. But Nancy wants you to know that she's going to do something for you probably after the election, though, right? Because this isn't political. No, Nancy's never doing that. Play 9.
I have been willing to come below $3.4 trillion. We have come all the way down. So I don't know why the press decides that it's equivalent for me to come down further while they're not going up any further. So we are having our conversations. When I have a conversation with the administration, it is in good faith. I trust Secretary Mnuchin to represent something that can reach a solution, and I believe we can come to an agreement. However, at some point, the public is going to have to see why 2.2 or now 2.4 perhaps trillion dollars is necessary, because the president's denial of the virus and just resistance to doing anything to crush it has made matters worse in so many ways.
The president's denial of the virus and resistance to do anything to crush it. They'll say anything, folks. They'll say anything. It's just delusional nonsense. But Orange Man bad. As long as Orange Man bad, whatever they say is fine. Like angry little children. Orange Man bad. Nancy here just blathering on. You know, the Nancy Pelosi school of negotiation is like, there's 10 trillion that we want. And you're saying that that's too high. So, okay, let's make it 9 trillion, right? I mean, no, wait, hold on. You're asking for too much money. If you're outrageous with the demands, it doesn't matter if you come down a little bit from your outrageous demand, right? If I showed up, if your house is worth let's say your house is worth $250,000, and I show up and I say, all right, I'm making an offer on your house. I'm going to offer you $50,000. And you say, no, Buck, that's absurd. And they say, okay. $75,000 I offer you for your house. I mean, you'd probably want to throw something at me, and you'd be right to, right? But then if I was like, well, but I'm coming up, I'm making you, that's what Nancy's doing here with the COVID stimulus thing. And people are suffering, but she doesn't care. Senator Ted Cruz is in the house from the great state of Texas. You all know him very well. He's got a new book out, One Vote Away, How a Single Supreme Court Seat Can Change History. Senator Cruz, great to have you on. Thanks so much.
Buck, great to be with you. Thanks for having me.
All right, we've got a huge Supreme Court vacancy to be filled atop a very contentious election. What is it that you see? I mean, you've obviously written this book about the one seat here and how it can make such a difference. What's some of the backstory, the history that people should know about why the elevation of ACB would be so momentous?
Well, the Supreme Court really is the arbiter and at the crossroads of all our constitutional liberties. The book that I have out that is coming out this week is just released, focuses on our constitutional rights. And each chapter in the book focuses on a different constitutional liberty. But before I was in the Senate, I was a Supreme Court litigator. So that's what I did for a living, is argue cases in front of the Supreme Court. And so there's one chapter on free speech. There's one chapter on religious liberty. There's one chapter on the Second Amendment. There's one chapter on U.S. sovereignty. There's one chapter on elections and democracy, and it goes into Bush versus Gore, which I was part of the legal team representing George W. Bush, and it was obviously a contested election, which we could see a reprise of it this year with this election. And what I do in the book is every chapter tells really the inside story, the backstory behind landmark cases at the court, behind the biggest cases at the court, many of which I helped litigate. And so it takes you behind to understand, okay, what are the issues the court has in front of them? Why does it matter to me? Who are the justices? It tells a lot of inside stories about the justices, about the litigants. And it's designed so that you don't have to be a lawyer to understand or appreciate the book. It's designed to help you understand how on free speech or religious liberty or all these issues that the landmark cases are almost all 5-4, that we have 4 justices ready to take away our fundamental liberties, and one vacancy can make an enormous difference, positive or negative.
Is Amy Coney Barrett the best possible choice to fill the open Supreme Court seat now, in your estimation?
I think she's a very strong choice. You look at her record. She has impeccable credentials. She graduated #1 in her class from Notre Dame Law School. She was a law clerk to Justice Antonin Scalia, the great Justice Scalia. She spent 20 years as a law professor at Notre Dame. She is now one of the most respected federal appellate judges in the country. And I think the president, in making this nomination, was following through on his promise to the American people to nominate constitutionalists and to nominate judges in the mold of Scalia or Thomas. And I think the Senate, we will confirm Judge Barrett, I believe, and we will do so before Election Day. I'm leading the fight in the Senate to make that happen. And I think when we do so, we will be delivering on our promise to confirm strong, principled constitutionalists who will defend the Bill of Rights.
We're speaking to Senator Ted Cruz from Texas. His new book comes out this week, One Vote Away, How a Single Supreme Court Seat Can Change History. Senator Cruz, is there a mechanism, a procedural trick, anything that concerns you that your Democrat colleagues in the Senate may try to pull at this stage? Is there anything we need to be aware of? Because the shrill hysterics around the alleged illegitimacy of this nomination seem to show us that they'll just say things that are flatly untrue. So people are worried about whether they're willing to do things that are flatly unprincipled.
Yeah, look, I think that's right. I think even before this vacancy, the Democrats and the hard left, they were losing their minds. They hate President Trump with an all-consuming rage. And once this vacancy occurred, to quote the movie Spinal Tap, suddenly it went to 11. I mean, they are beside themselves. We will begin hearings on Judge Barrett on October 12th. And I fully expect Democrats to light their hair on fire, to do everything they can to turn it into a circus, likely every bit as disgracefully as they did with Justice Kavanaugh, where they went after him personally, they smeared him, they slimed his family. I think if they can, they will try to do the same thing to Judge Barrett. We saw some of this when she was nominated to the Court of Appeals, where they attacked her and demonized her because of her faith. She's a Catholic. And Senator Feinstein put it this way about Judge Barrett. She said, the dogma lives loudly in this one. And the position of a lot of Democrats seemed to be that if you're a person of faith, if you're Catholic, if you're evangelical, that you cannot serve as a judge and you can't serve in any public office. Now, of course, the Constitution prohibits a religious test for any public office, but today's Democrats have a real deep antipathy and animosity for people of faith. That being said, I think they will try every antic they can, including Pelosi is threatening possibly trying to impeach the president again. And if Democrats all stand together in the House, they could vote out articles of impeachment again. Even if they do that, it's not going to prevent this confirmation. If they engage in such a wildly partisan stunt, I'm confident we have the votes in the Senate to disregard their partisan antics and to deliver on our constitutional responsibility to confirm this justice.
How concerned are you, Senator, about the possibility of either a Biden administration, heaven forbid from my perspective, but it could happen, or whomever the next Democrat president may be, and there will be one at some point, we know that much, packing the court? This gets a lot of discussion now because Democrats are openly threatening to do that. Is that a realistic threat from your perspective?
Unfortunately, I think it is. Today's Democratic Party has really been radicalized, where there were a lot of positions that even a few years ago they would never have embraced. A few years ago, most Democrats said they weren't socialists. Now just about all of them agree with Bernie Sanders and AOC, and that's who's sending their agenda. Even a few months ago, most Democrats would have laughed at the prospect of abolishing or defunding the police. Now that is the mainstream position of today's Democratic Party. And when it comes to packing the court, so a Democratic president has tried that before. FDR tried that. And even though he had massive Democratic majorities in both houses of Congress, his own party resisted him. His own party said, no, we're not going to politicize the court. What's changed, unfortunately, is I don't think the Democrats would resist a Joe Biden. Certainly a Chuck Schumer or a Nancy Pelosi is not going to resist a Joe Biden. When it comes to packing the court, they've threatened to take the court from 9 justices to 11 to 13. Who knows how many they would put up there. And it underscores the stakes of this election, that it is critically important that President Trump be reelected. I'm fighting hard for him to be reelected. It's critically important that we maintain a Republican majority in the Senate and that we retake the House, because if, God forbid, we wake up in January and it is Biden, Schumer, Pelosi, I think they'll do more damage in 2 years than Barack Obama did in 8.
And would the filibuster also be one of those casualties in your opinion, based upon that scenario you just gave us?
I do believe it would. I think every Democrat would end the filibuster, which means if they have a narrow Senate majority, the filibuster, which is the most potent tool to stop to stop whoever has the Senate majority from just running over the minority, I believe the Democrats would eliminate the filibuster. And I don't think there's any dissension on their party. I think they would act early on to try to cement their majority. So one of the things I think they would do also is expand the United States and add 2 new states, add the District of Columbia and add Puerto Rico. And the reason they would do that is Democrats believe those 2 places would elect 4 new Democratic senators. So if we started January of 2021 with 50 Democrats and the vice president, we could end 2021 with 54 Democratic senators. And I think they will try to institutionalize their power, because right now the zealots, the extreme, is who's driving the Democratic Party.
One vote away, how a single Supreme Court seat can change history is the book out this week from Senator Ted Cruz. Senator, always good to see you, sir. Thank you for dropping by and talking to us.
Buck, thank you for having us. Let me encourage folks to go to Amazon, go to Barnes & Noble, go to onevoteaway.com. You can order the book right now. It'll help you understand what's happening at the court and how our fundamental liberties are all hanging by a single vote. And so please go buy the book. I think you'll enjoy it.
All righty. Thanks very much.
It's totally fake news, made up, fake. We went through the same stories. You could have asked me the same questions 4 years ago. I had to litigate this and talk about it. Totally fake news. No, actually, I paid tax, and you'll see that as soon as my tax returns. It's under audit. They've been under audit for a long time. The IRS does not treat me well. They treat me like the Tea Party, like they treated the Tea Party. They don't treat me well. They treat me very badly. You have people that in the IRS, they treat me very, very badly.
The IRS should be changed dramatically. I remember I asked Ted Cruz when he was running for president in 2016. I said, sir, would you really, Senator, would you really get rid of the IRS if you could? He said, well, we'd pare it down because it becomes very easy when the enforcement mechanism has to be much smaller if you have a one-page tax code. Why can't the tax code be one page? Why is it, if you add all these opinions and these different aspects of it, they estimate the tax code's over 70,000 pages with regulations and all these other things. That's insane. But the reason it's so big is because people want to use tax policy as a means of coercing certain behaviors, punishing certain behaviors, encouraging other behaviors. It's social engineering plus social justice, redistributing wealth, advocating for certain things, and then also, of course, giving all kinds of carve-outs to special interests, big business, and to high earners. All those things together. That's why the tax code is so large. I mean, the actual physical tax code, if you were to print it out, is so absolutely enormous. So, I think everybody should just understand that as long as that continues to be the case, we're going to have distortions. There's going to be unfairness. And, I mean, the IRS shouldn't be terrifying for people to deal with, and it is. You ask people in Europe, by the way, what it's like when they have to handle the tax authorities. The tax authorities are annoying. It's like dealing with the DMV. Okay, it's annoying, and they're on. But, the worst thing they're going to do is they're going to take more of your money. In America, we lock people up over this. We actually, put people in prison based on what the tax authority says. And it doesn't have to be that way. Anyway, I'm going to get into a little more of the Fauci situation and where we are with all this in just a bit, because I'm still furious about it all. But there was one moment that gave me a little bit of encouragement here, where someone went up to NYPD officers who were standing. I believe they're outside. It's kind of tough to see in the video, but standing outside, and their masks are down, right? So they're down around their neck. They're not on. They're talking to each other. And this guy just walks up and is trying to do the mask shaming thing to these two cops. And of course, you're seeing the collision here of two different Democrat, really almost religious beliefs now. One, cops are bad, and two, wearing a mask makes you a good person. This is now a Democrat thing. They believe those two things. And I say these NYPD officers, these are beat cops. They're just doing their best to do their jobs, go home at night, providing a very necessary service for the city, for the people of New York. And here's how the exchange went. Play 2.
If I don't wear a mask in the subway. What? Does the fine apply just to me or to you guys if I don't wear a mask? No problem. I'm just curious,
Actually, it states that as long as you can maintain 6 feet distance, you don't have to wear the mask.
But you guys don't
if you want to step within 6 feet of me, I'll gladly put on the mask. Okay. So would you like to do that?
I mean, I feel like you guys are within less than 6 feet of each other.
You're the one that approached us, so would you
But I'm 6 feet away, though.
distance?
I'm 6 feet away, though, sir.
Okay, now we're 6 feet away, and I got nothing better than that.
I mean, you should probably wear a mask during a global pandemic.
You're the person that calls someone, you know what I mean? When someone's selling water bottle on the streets, you're the person that calls them. That's what you are.
All right, Carrie, you're like the male version of Carrie. So have a nice day.
Really, sir? Hey, hold on. What's your name?
Yeah, you know that. I'm ready to say.
Said? Okay,
have a nice day, man.
Thank you. You too.
Yeah,
Have a
take
wonderful
care,
day.
Carrie.
Thank you for your service, sir. Thank you for protecting us during a pandemic.
What a little punk. A little punk. Guy's a jerk. These officers handled him exactly the right way. Why are you going up to these? Going up to two cops? You know, if they're sitting together in a squad car all day, guess what, idiot? There's no social distancing that they can do. And to call them out, they're 6 feet apart. But you see, this is the irrational part of this now. People have been brainwashed. They all believe this crap now. And I can't tell you, I just saw a friend of mine over the weekend. He's a buddy of mine, former Navy SEAL, and we're talking about this. We're both walking around the street outside, no mask on. And people look at us kind of strangely. They look at me, look at him, and we're looking around, we're like, we're outdoors, and no one's within 6 feet of us. And even if they were, the real rule is even if you're within 6 feet of somebody, it takes 15 minutes of continuous exposure indoors for there to be real risk of transmission of the disease. So why? Because he said he's had people outside tell him put on a mask when he's outdoors. Friends, that's what's coming next. Because the disease, this isn't stopping the spread of the disease, okay? That's not actually, whether it's because people don't wear their masks enough indoors, or I don't know what, but it's not stopping it. You look at all the data, all the different charts, this is Fantasyland stuff. Can it work? Maybe, but with perfect usage in all circumstances, with all people, with all, but it's not having the intended effect. But now they're going to extend it to, you have to wear it outside, and Biden is saying he's going to institute a national mask mandate right away. Think about that. Now you're going to have little idiots coming up to you outside, wherever you are, anywhere across the country, and saying, where's your mask? So if you're in a state that's had like 200 people die of COVID all year, and it's very few cases, you're going to have a national mask mandate? When does the mask mandate go away? And I'm going to ask you this. Why is the mask mandate not going to be in place? Think this one through during every flu season. Oh, well, the actual data on masking during flu season is that it really doesn't do anything, but they ignore that now. They ignore that now, of course. Friends, we do not do enough to push back on the tyranny, and we're all living with it now. I live with it. People complain about me in the building where I live, the apartment building, because I'm not wearing a mask constantly. I wear it in the gym. I wear it indoors when I have to. But if I want to walk out my building, I don't think I should have to wear a mask when I'm not standing near anybody and I'm not actually in the lobby for more than 10 seconds. Wear a mask, they say.